Hey everyone, Ben Brandt here, back in the basement, getting back to work. Now, in the process of reorganizing and rearranging my basement work area here, I've managed to uncover a little bit of wall space that I think I could make good use out of for storage of small items. I just need to sacrifice about 5 inches off the end of my pegboard here, but the router and pull saw make quick work of that. Now the goal here is to build some adjustable shelving that'll actually fit in between the two studs on my wall. Now the studs themselves are just regular 2x4s, so they're only about 3.5 inches deep. And I wanted to get a little bit deeper than that, so I'm actually using a couple of 1x6s, which are 5.5 inches, to give me slightly deeper shelves, and these will mount in between the studs of the wall. So the idea here is I'm going to cut a series of slots up and down each side of the shelf, and I'm going to space them out here every 2 inches. So just going down the length of the boards, I'm making a mark every 2 inches across both boards. And then once all my marks are made, I can take the two boards, switch them around, and then I've got marks going down both sides that I can mash up with my jig, which is coming up next. To cut all my dado slots, I'll be using a 3/4 inch bit on the router to clear out all the slots on both boards. So I'll be clamping both of the boards together so that I can cut one slot across both of them, and that way I'll have a nice mirror image of each slot on each board so that they match up with each other. So I'm just using some pieces of scrap wood here to build a simple router jig that will sit across both boards, give me a channel that I can slide the router back and forth through, and also slide it up and down the length of the boards every 2 inches. Now before I cut all my slots on the boards, I took the router and set the cutting depth to where I wanted it, which is about 3/8 of an inch, and then took the jig off of the boards and just cut basically an entrance and an exit slot on each end. These slots will give me a starting and ending point for the router and will let me actually see where exactly the slots will line up as I slide the jig up and down the boards. Next, I just had to trim off some of the excess wood from my jig to make it easier to clamp it into place. Just to make sure I don't screw up one of these slots, I put an X next to each pencil mark to make sure I cut on the correct side of each line. And now we're finally set to mill out all these slots. I just take my jig and line up the entrance and exit slots with the pencil marks on the boards, clamp it into place on both sides, and once the jig is secure, we can just get the router and run it all the way through. For the sake of adjustability, I ended up making a lot of slots, about 40 in total. And while it was tedious, it didn't take as long as I thought. I was able to get all of them cut and sanded in about an hour. And I think the end result was worth the effort. To install the shelves, I pre-drilled all of my screw holes about every 2 feet along the boards, and then just screwed them into the studs. Overall, the installation couldn't be much simpler. To make the shelves, I took some scrap 1/2-inch plywood and just cut it down to size. I cut it down to a width about 1/8 of an inch narrower than the gap between the slots on the shelves. And since I was using 1/2 inch material, that should give me plenty of clearance moving these shelves in and out of place. Well, there you have it. With just a little bit of effort and some cheap lumber, you can take this strip of unfinished wall space and turn it into some useful floor-to-ceiling adjustable storage. Well, I hope you enjoyed this project, and thanks for watching.